Welcome to the 157th episode of News Dump, where we run through the hottest topics in the Lewis County news scene and discuss. It's Monday, September 18th. I'm local man Aaron Vantile, joined by Chronicle editor-in-chief Eric Schwartz, Chronicle assistant editor Isabel Vanderstoop, and Chronicle photo editor Jared Wenzelberger. We're joined in spirit by sponsors Summit Funding and the Roof Doctor. Do any of you have anything to mention before we jump into the preambles? Or do you want to get right into is this the right button?
I can't hear that.
The SPJs?
Yeah,
That's
the right button.
Good.
Crowd cheers.
It was a clapping sound. Yeah, sure. Jared and Eric Schwartz and Eric Rosane and Emily Fitzgerald and I together won second place in environmental journalism for our coverage of the 2022 flood in the Northwest Excellence in Journalism contest, which includes newsrooms in several states across the Northwest. So that was really awesome. And then on top of that, Emily Fitzgerald got second place in breaking news coverage for the Winlock fire last election day, November 8th. Well, not last election day, but, you know, the last, official one in November. And then Jared as well on that. And then Jared got first place in spot news photography, a category he's now won twice.
And this ceremony was held in what appears to be a strip club.
Yeah, it was
Neighbors in Seattle.
Yeah, Neighbors nightclub. It doesn't just appear to be that. It is that. That's what it was.
There was no performers on the night of.
No. I mean, there may have been after the event ended.
Not
But-
during.
They left the condoms out for the ceremony.
Oh, that's good.
So.
Well,
Yeah.
that's not. That's good.
Sure.
It's the right move.
Yeah,
I
sure.
support it.
All right. Congrats on your SPJs, everybody.
You ever won one of those?
Ooh. Yeah, I have one or two. One.
And it was for a number 2, right?
It sure was. Yeah.
No, that's fine.
They continue to not recognize the podcast. But
I
our
know.
listeners do.
You also
That's all that
never
matters.
applied for anything, so news would
No,
always
I
leave
hardly
sports
ever-
out of it.
Yeah.
So
We hardly ever put anything
They also
in.
claim to be the worst podcast in Lewis County.
it is. It's no claim.
I think it's probably the worst
a fact.
podcast in the state.
Easily.
Yeah.
The region.
Well, there
Northwest.
should be an
Probably Region
award
10.
for that.
I was a lot more impressed with Jared's award-winning photo this time than I was last time when it was just a mountain with some pumpkins in front of it. I couldn't believe you won that,
That was
one.
not my award-winning photo.
That won you an SPJ, though.
That won me second place.
It's still... so he doesn't even count second place, Aaron. Do you hear that?
Wow.
It was
Well,
a
if you're
great
not
photo,
first,
but I
you're
was just
last.
shocked that it won because it was like, it's the mountain on a nice day with some pumpkins in front of it, like
Yeah.
on a pullout.
But the other one that he won for was that just column of flame.
Right. I do remember that.
Yeah.
You'll win more.
Yeah. But that Winlock fire photo is really incredible. And there's a lot more going on than just in the one with all the flame because there's people fighting the fire, which is that entire second floor of the building. And you can tell that it's coming from every side, even though you can't see all the other people. It's very interesting.
Also, that happened on election coverage night, so we're all kind of beat to hell around that time of night because you've worked a full day shift and then you come back and you work several hours, 3-4 hours on election stuff, and then it was like, oh, by the way, there's a massive fire. So
on
Jared
election
was down
night,
there.
huh?
On election night, yeah.
Huh.
What?
Curious.
We think it's a
What are they trying to distract from? That's all I'm wondering. Just asking questions.
stop the steal. Am I right?
Yeah. All right, cool. Should we go to news items? You guys ready for some news?
Talk about our awards more if you want to, but
Yeah.
Flood legs, award-winning flood legs, by the way.
finally.
First up, contractors nearing completion of Centralia Station infrastructure. The first 2 phases of the project, development off Mellon Street that features Winco, probably as its anchor tenant, are nearing completion, according to the port. Winco, however, has not provided a date for when they'll begin construction, which is kind of like when a girl says, "Oh, don't worry, I'll call you," and then you never hear from her again. I feel like they would be able to have
I
a
don't
date
think
for.
it's like that.
They've known about this for years. This shouldn't be a
They've
surprise.
got a site plan submitted and everything. I think it's just a matter of when they're going to, actually start building. But I sincerely doubt that they would come this far along and
You
be like,
used to
no.
work for the city of Centralia, didn't you?
I did Summers, yeah.
You know how they have to, you know how a big construction project has to submit a binding site plan to the city before it can commit to any date?
I was never in anything like that.
Well,
But you know.
they have a site plan, so that's a pretty significant
I believe it when I
step.
see it. Anyway, this story on the port also had some business with Peter Lamont not getting the info we wanted and voting against it. I don't know what that's all about, and I feel like at this point it's happened so many times that I don't really care. The Winco project feels a lot like Narnia, where there's always construction but never Winco.
Oh, it'll be there one day. You have all those pre-packaged, pre-cooked meals for you to throw in the microwave.
And you and I will go over there together and use our AARP discounts because that's about when it'll occur.
I made the mistake. There's a Winco right next to Clark County today. I worked there briefly, and so I went over there and bought a meal, and it was fish, and I heated it up in the cafeteria. And
Oh, boy.
I know. I was that guy. Felt bad.
Yeah.
I wanted to take it outside, but then I would drag that all through the 3-story building. It was a no-win situation.
Yeah.
What else is coming to the space? I assume it's like a strip mall kind of thing around Winco.
I think that's general idea. I don't know about a strip mall, but I think they're hoping that, not even just hoping, assuming that something that large that attracts that many people is going to attract other businesses that want to seize on those people if they are hungry or they need to be clothed or, any basic necessity.
You know
Candy
what
salon.
I hope goes there?
Costco.
Costco next to the Winco.
Red Lobster.
No, I
PF
hope
Chang's?
that we get another office for the roof doctor.
All right, getting this one out of the way early, are we?
Or at the very least, that's a lot of roofs for them to give free estimates on.
I mean, there's going to be so much construction. Just having them right there would be so convenient, considering that there's such a seasoned business, family owned since 1959.
With
Yeah, and
competitive rates.
And free estimates, of course, as previously mentioned. If you need to get a hold of the Roof Doctor, visit their website, theroofdoctor.com, or give them a call locally, 360-736-0246. Glad that one's out of the way.
And you say it like it's a responsibility or something.
We love the roof
It's
doctor.
like it's a contractual obligation
Yeah.
or something.
Next item, demonstrators and vendors honored by Southwest Washington Fair Association Awards. I didn't know the fair gives out awards after the fair, which is an event predicated on presenting awards to its exhibitors.
They're WOW awards.
Yeah, so they're awards.
No.
There are awards for the fair that are given during the fair, I believe. But
By the Washington State Fair Association.
no, the Southwest Washington Fair Association, not the Washington State.
Right, but the Southwest Washington Fair this year did receive an award from the Washington Fair Association.
Yes, one
during the
exhibit,
fair.
but that's not this. Yeah. Anyways, but this.
Carl, you said you read the notes.
I read the notes.
Just not the Chronicle. Just joking.
Anyways, so this release was given to us shortly after the fair, and I had neglected to get it in the newspaper until now. So that's the problem. But it did come out less than a month after the fair ended.
Oh, well, congrats to all the award winners.
Tacos El Rey, #1 for food. You can't argue with that. Except for the one time I tried Tacos El Rey at the fair. This is not shading them because I'm sure this is a business move, but the prices were much higher and the portions were much smaller. And I wondered why wouldn't I just drive 2 minutes down the road and get Tacos El Rey?
Then you got to leave and you got to park again. And
I love Tacos El Rey. No shade intended. I missed the bus though when it was just a bus.
Yeah, the old days, like the CC days, just a bus. That was great.
I will say I don't quite understand, but still appreciate the fact that the animal exhibits went first place for Napa Vine Go-Getters Cattle 4-H. That's great. Second place, Willapa Valley. And then third place is just the swine barn. Collectively. It's we just can't pick. It's so good.
There's some pigs in there. We walked through. I made about 35 Charlotte's Web references.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did your kids laugh?
No.
Did Heather laugh?
No. Heather never laughs at my jokes.
Oh.
It doesn't happen. All I get is mean looks.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many good jokes you could make out of the swine barn, too.
I know. There was a lot. It stunk really, really bad though. So, and she was pregnant, so she hated it.
That's
Swine
fair.
bar.
Still is.
Next item, before I take the bait on that swine barn bit. Napa Vine becomes third city in Lewis County to adopt flock cameras. It's a 2-year deal. Centurion already has them. It sounds like Chehalis is getting them. These are cameras around that just recognize and scan license plates. I don't know. The more I read about these, the more I'm not like against it, but it does seem a little intrusive to be tracked when you're just out,
driving around in your stolen Corolla.
Yeah, like I don't know. I thought we were against this kind of thing.
Who's we?
Tracking Big Brother bullshit.
I guess that's probably the effectiveness that's really, like Centralia's had so much success with it that Chehalis was a no-brainer for them. Mm-hmm. I think the Flock people are really active too in marketing their stuff. Anytime we write about an arrest, we're pretty comprehensive in our coverage, so I'm sure it works for other papers, but we'll get an email like 3 days later. Did you hear about this Flock camera thing? You guys should write a story. And it's like, we already did. But
yeah.
After talking with Stacy Denham, it sounds like it does more than just track license plates. Like if it just has like a dent on it that matches a car from an accident, it will track it.
Wow. Yeah, that is kind of spooky.
We had a letter to the editor in today's paper about it. You might bring it up in the Tales from the Takes page.
That's a good idea. I didn't read it, so let's do that.
Yeah, she pretty eloquently laid out what you just said at 500-word length. So
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get there when we get there. Also, Knapvine City Council has established the Funtime Festival Committee to oversee annual festival and other events. I think this is is this new? Is this older?
No, this is the meeting that was
Same meeting
held.
as the Flock camera stuff.
Okay.
So it's new. We have had a previous story about this when they were voting and kind of entertaining this, but this was their first workshop on the topic. And so basically Knapvine's trying to figure out what it would look like if they took over Funtime Festival and what that really means. So it's just kind of a wrap up of that. Obviously, like the Princess Napawina, as we've talked about before from earlier this summer, had become sort of a hot issue. I mean, it probably has been to plenty of people, but this is kind of, we like saw people making petitions and just talking about it more. So now the city, that and with some other like concerns about it, is basically like assuming the role of managing the festival. So probably lots of changes will come along with it. And yeah, this was just our first coverage of that.
Mayor Sean O'Neill just laying down the law at the opening of the meeting. I appreciated that. I just thought it was interesting. He just said, if we're here to argue about something like Pageant Princess, other than what the city has been supporting the last several years, which has been Miss Nawakam Valley, you are at the wrong meeting. We are not going to talk about Princess Napawina tonight.
Yeah, I like that quote too.
Yeah.
It struck me as being like fairly level-headed and responsible, and like we are about business here, not about just going on, wild tangents or anything like that.
He is really, really straightforward, and I appreciate that a lot. I think all of just in my one meeting experience with Napawine City Council, it seems like they're all really candid with one another and have very like open conversations. And I think especially with this kind of topic where it does have a lot of sensitive and like community related ties on all sides of the issue, like having that kind of open dialogue is really important when you want to take over and move forward.
All right, next item. Lewis County Republicans select the new chairman, and boy, is the bar high.
Not chairman, right?
No,
Committeeman. Sorry, I read that wrong.
Yeah, state committeeman is like the person who goes and meets with the rest of the state party, and they talk about like policies that they want to talk to legislators about, basically.
Do you think Greg Rohr of Toledo is going to show up to the first meeting and find that they've been preparing for Roger Morningstar to be there, and so there's like a hand-drawn map to the nearest strip club and things like that they're waiting for him?
No, I don't think that that's going to happen, Aaron. He took it very seriously, though. He gave us a statement. He said he's inspired by Jesus Christ, who washed the feet of his disciples and made the profoundly true statement, by example, in order to lead, you must serve first, not a one-time event, but a life choice.
He texted that, correct?
I don't know, but he provided it, which I thought was nice in a timely manner, so we could get this in the paper.
He ran against Frank Corbin, who also, I'm trying to think of like how to tie that in. I guess he has now on the like conservative coalition of Lewis County, how we talked about that a little bit earlier, but sort of this like also conservative, but not necessarily affiliated party. And I think that his hope was to kind of like join those two again. And it didn't seem like that happened. But I do think that like Greg Rohr and he have very similar like outlooks and values. Both of them are obviously Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Anyways, that was just a little extra information.
All right. Next item. Twin Transit Board declines resignation of Director Joe Clark. Investigation continues. All right, before we get into this, can you guys explain to me how Twin Transit and the county are related? Is it like it's not a county agency?
There's 3 board members for Twin Transit. There's one from the county, there's one from Chehalis, and there's one from Centralia, and that board manages the
Buses and
entire
whatnot.
thing. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's an
Anyway,
interlocal partnership.
okay. So Joe Clark went to a bar in a government car, had a beer, and then left.
I don't think it was a beer. If I watched the video, if anything, it was an alcoholic beverage of some sort, cocktail.
Had a drink,
Fair enough.
and then drove off. Someone took a video and posted it online. He tried to resign, but the Twin Transit Authority Board said absolutely not.
Well, they went into an executive session and then they came out and said that his resignation has not been accepted.
Scott Brummer, who
And that
represents...
there's an investigation ongoing. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Scott Brummer, who is on this board, said at this time he is able to perform the duties of his position and has a vote of confidence from the board with additional personnel actions that may be taken at a later date based on further investigation. Brummer went on to add, it is the explicit policy of the Board of County Commissioners to be as limp-wristed as possible when dealing with any county employee, contractor, or volunteer who has at any point been a registered Republican.
That's not in the story.
If Joe Clint stepped foot in a bar that supports Pride Month or any type of diversity or inclusivity, inebriated or not, we would have demanded he be fired and, if possible, jailed. No investigation necessary.
Aaron,
None of that is true. None of that is true.
You can't say it's not true.
Yeah,
back
you
just
can.
a
I can
little
absolutely
bit.
say that it's not true.
What is really baffling me about this story is just like, okay, guy is in a public role to the point where someone is videotaping him like at a bar. I feel like I'd be uncomfortable if someone did that to me. And so then he's like, I'm going to put in my resignation. Now, I don't know the rest of the story, but then the board is like, no, you can't resign. I mean, is that what he wanted them to say?
Well, I think it's
just-
the difference between resigning and offering your resignation. So it would be like he still want. I mean, I would assume
Okay.
that he would prefer not to resign.
Okay.
But that the right move in his head is to submit his resignation for their consideration. And like, is this enough? Should I be done?
Okay, that makes sense. I just feel like when I hear resignation in my mind, it's like, see ya. And then they're like, no way. But okay, that makes more sense.
I don't know. My take in reading it was obviously if it was alcohol, we don't even know that, but there hasn't really been any pushback saying it wasn't in our reporting, following our reporting. So, but when I looked at it, 'cause someone had told me about it, I was expecting, slurred speech, drunk, late night. Not that this is right, but I don't know. My honest personal takeaway was like a strong apology and some discipline might take care of this if you want to retain him. But that will be up for the board to decide.
It was worth noting that the Twin Transit social medias had posted this video to their stories.
Yeah, it looks like they
Twitter
got hacked.
pages, so it sounds like that might have been a hack, but
A hack.
It looks like it.
Yeah.
Disgruntled employee, probably.
Like, I don't even think...
yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of torn on this. Like, I don't think it's a huge deal that somebody like Joe Clark went to a bar and had a drink and then left. It's the fact that he was in a government car and the stipulations and implications of that. What if he had left and, been involved in an accident?
Yeah, no,
And,
absolutely.
the county's on the hook for that.
it was the wrong thing to do. I agree with you.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I'm sure he's a nice guy, good at his job and all that, but it does seem like the Twin Transit Authority Board should be a little more I don't know,
Well, I think
stress some accountability maybe?
the idea that there is an investigation continuing to me, and I have no, like I said, don't know the rest of the story, but it suggests to me that there's more like parts of his conduct and contract that they're looking into, right? Like, first of all, does this align or break any of our rules that he's like signed and agreed to follow? And then on top of that, like if his resignation was declined, and this is like a one-time thing, and this didn't like out explicitly break any rules, I don't think they would open an investigation. They would just be like, no, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I don't know. It just seems like this would be yet another opportunity for one of our commissioners to pretend accountability matters, but they've got way more important shit going on. And no, I don't mean any of the lawsuits or the unsolved murders.
God, you're gonna go
or
on
the
one, aren't
lawsuits
you?
about the unsolved murders.
Holy
Anyway, next item.
Notes on this next item.
Lewis County commissioners to declare they won't comply with the mask mandate.
Did you descend Mount Sinai with these?
State says such a directive is not on the horizon. I did do a word count on the notes for this, and I was like, this is a little much.
Yeah.
So there are no mask mandates coming or anything like that. But just in case a contagious, deadly disease should pop up, you can be damn sure Lewis County will say, don't tread on me, and refuse to endorse any kind of mask mandates.
I mean, isn't that what it always has been? What I don't understand about this is like how it's different from what's been in the past.
Well, I think in the past, the commissioners wore the masks or some sort of alternative.
Sure.
And I think, if
Well,
I
yeah,
can take
who
it back one more, I
Throw
always
back
want
to
to know,
Bojack.
like, when I'm reading something from the reporters or a story, I always want to know what the news peg is. And I don't have a news peg on this one. I mean, we called around. There's no one threatening a mask mandate right now. So that's where my confusion is. It's not really confusion. It's just like, why now? On the other hand, I could see how this is an incredibly popular stance to take for a Lewis County commissioner with the people. And I mean, that's kind of borne out when we've shared it online. It's not something the majority hates. I mean, the mask mandates were, when they first happened, I didn't think that would ever happen in my lifetime, like a mandate period. Like you have to do this or you can't go indoors. So I understand that, but continue, King.
Anyway, this naturally came from Sean Swope, who kept his Joe DiMaggio-esque streak of proposing useless resolutions safely intact. Someone in the audience at this meeting asked if the county would, quote, buck state requirements if a mandate came about. Scott Brummer responded that would, quote, be a different discussion, but ultimately, yeah, that's what we're saying. That would literally be this discussion. That is the only part of this discussion they're talking about.
I guess unless the mask mandate was federal.
Unless it's
Yeah.
an actual rule, and then they will maybe do it. Who knows?
I don't know. During this meeting, did they say anything about consulting with that old doctor they hired after they fired the two qualified guys they didn't like because they used too many big words?
I don't think that anything you just said really made a whole lot of sense. I think the current doctor's qualified, right? He's a doctor and he's local.
He's qualified.
Yeah. Did they talk to him?
I don't know. I didn't report this story, so.
I don't know
I
either.
feel like
I'm
they've
not
just
the
forgotten
county
he
reporter
exists.
anymore. No,
He weighed in on the Blakesley
exists.
Junction stuff. And
Yeah, and he has an update at every Board of Health meeting, but this is something that's coming from the commissioner's desk, right? Like not the Board of Health. And I know that those are the same people, but it's a different like entity when it comes to this. Is like they're not mandating this for like health stuff. They're just saying literally, we as lawmakers will not abide by this. Right?
I haven't heard a comment from the Board of Health, but the commissioners aren't making a statement. That's what you're saying.
there are like endless rabbit holes you could jump down with this. I also think like with masks, like, yeah, there's some types of masks that they've done research on that don't work that great. But just to say that the science is done and masks don't work at all just ignores the fact that like an N95 would work in a situation like that. Also, we had a county commissioner die from COVID-19, and I'm not trying to make it personal or anything like that, but it's like, I think if we're going to go charging at something like this, maybe it should actually be on the table or in the discussion. And all I've seen is memes from my conservative friends, and I'm not mocking them, but just that, I'm not going to comply next time, and a few of them throw out dates, but I haven't seen anything. And then, we have Commissioner Swope commentary on this topic today on the opinion page, and it kind of starts with whispers of new mandates, and I'm like, well, is this the whisper? Like, where's
You're doing the whispering.
Where's the whisper? And again, I'm
seen
not
it on
opposed to
Facebook.
what he's proposing. I'm kind of indifferent to it, to be honest. Working here, everybody does what makes everyone else comfortable. During the pandemic, that was wearing a mask. We all have our own offices. It didn't make that big of a deal to me to strap one on when I walked to the bathroom or something like that. But I think, obviously he feels strongly about it, and I think a lot of people agree with him, so I don't want to join you in mocking him too much. And looks like we got another 40 minutes of notes here on it.
Well, Swope also did. You mentioned something about he wanted to keep some fairy tale language about science not working in the actual resolution because the county is just doing Alex Jones Mad Libs and official records now.
I think that you pointing out sorry, I'm not trying to derail your bits. I just like
Bits derailed.
It's been derailed.
I'm sorry. I won't soon forget that Gary Stamper died shortly after the fair, and one of the very same front pages that we had, Please Come Home, Gary Stamper, was Sean Swope got COVID and was talking about taking ivermectin, and those two things were on the very same page. We can almost safely assume, and I know but that they got that from the fair or sometime around that during the same time.
Well, there was the big indoor, we're going to have the fair anyway meeting.
Right.
And one of the last events I saw Gary Stamper at was the Napa Vine Funtime Festival.
Yeah, but that was well before they decided, hey, we're going to have the fair, whatever, 2 days before it started. And it just feels really easy to point to a situation where we can say people got sick because of that decision. And I'm not saying that the people who made that decision are liable for that. That's not what I'm meaning at all. Just that there are actual consequences to making these decisions that are not advised by your health officer or not advised by your county prosecutor. There's a reason that you appoint those people or elect those people to advise you.
Yeah. I also found it hilarious that Swope said the original mask mandates were political as he's writing a resolution to ban mask mandates that does not exist, and doing it with a straight face is it's almost impressive. Never mind him basing his entire political tenure around rambling about vaccines, gay library books, drag shows, pronouns and email signatures, the YMCA being too woke, comparing transgender people to livestock, pushing ivermectin despite the county doctor telling him it's for horses, making up stories about the ACLU drafting his homeless ban. Any of these things, to do all that and then say the original mask mandates were just political BS is just a wild
Something you
take.
disagree with, I imagine?
Just a wild take.
And this has been another Aaron Van Tile rant.
Well, it's not over yet.
You just won another trophy.
I would just like to remind anybody listening that when the county commissioners waste public time doing something like this, it is specifically to avoid doing anything that matters in their role as an elected leader.
Aaron, I firmly believe that Sean Swope and Scott Brummer think this matters. I firmly believe that.
I believe they think it matters, but as far as actually helping people in the county, it does not matter at all.
I think it, but again, these are your opinions, Aaron, and I think if you took a poll, an honest, good, scientific poll, then you would find that there's a lot of people that would be very pleased for that stance, even if it doesn't apply to them in their jobs. Working 8 hours with a mask on, I don't think I would have wanted to do that. And I laid out how we didn't have to do that, but I don't know, my wife worked in the restaurant industry and had to, and it's not pleasant. It was not fun. So I think if you have elected representation, so that's something you can weigh in on, and that person is, fighting back against that, even if it doesn't currently exist, it's gonna find purchase. It's gonna be a positive for him.
This is the kind of shit you throw out at a meeting when you know you can't do anything that really makes a difference.
I maybe won't disagree with that. I don't know.
They're just absolutely terrified of, the county commissioners are like a grade school bully. They just show up at recess and tell you these tall tales and make up stories about things that are happening until a teacher comes around who happens to be somebody with a badge or somebody that actually has an answer about something, and then they cower in the corner.
I'm not sure I've seen them do that.
No, I think bullies are punching you and calling you names and pushing you over.
Maybe not bullies, just like that kid in grade school that was just totally full of shit.
All right.
Like, like, where is this? I've said it before, but where is this like much like passion and, propulsion towards doing something when something comes up about, I don't know, the unsolved murders or all the lawsuits or Roger Morningstar or anything people have asked him about that they just downplay. Like, well, what do you want us to do?
I am not calling it accurate information, but I do firmly believe that Sean Swope has been seeing people say that there will be another mask mandate, because that's something that I've seen people talking about on Facebook. And like I said, not calling it accurate information, but I do think there is
everything off of Facebook.
I'm just saying, I do think that that's coming from an actual belief. Like, and I'm not trying to make a judgment about that. I'm just trying to say, like, I don't think that it comes down to should we decide to do something that we believe in or something we don't? I don't think it's like that. I think it's like the values are different,
Sure.
I'm not saying that like makes everything good or bad. It's just that like I'm certain he cares about this and that he actually does think it matters.
I can't wait till the next meeting where he proposes a resolution that says, in response to the new Facebook guidelines, I hereby declare that my copyright is attached to all my personal details, illustrations, comics, paintings, photos, and videos. Anyway, what a waste of time.
I agree. That was a long segment.
Yeah, well, we're going to be hearing about it for the next month or two, so...
They passed this tomorrow, and he has encouraged people to come to the meeting.
So we will be there.
Yeah.
Great. Political theater tomorrow. Anything else in news you guys want to throw out there?
I think we uploaded a bunch of the most recent stuff after you did these notes, so there's lots of stuff you can talk about at the end.
We'll get there.
All right. We'll be back.
Hi, this is Jeff and Julie from Fairway Lanes.
Jeff and I met Jacek of Summit Funding at our bowling center, so when we fell in love with this community and it was time to relocate, we knew we would be calling Summit Funding.
They understand that everyone has a unique situation when buying a home.
He had already helped 2 of our employees get into their own homes. The Summit Funding team exceeded our expectations. It was a seamless experience with great communication from his whole team.
Thank you to Summit Funding for making our buying experience special and memorable.
All right, we're back. It's time for segments. First up, we have Tales from the Takes page. Eric Schwartz has left us. He became too frustrated with my overwhelming takes.
Or he had to take his kids to soccer.
Left crying.
He threw his fists on the table and said, I'm out of here. I hate this.
Yeah. Anyway, Schwartz went to soccer practice or whatever. So, Isabel, what happened on Tales from the Takes page?
So we've had a lot of interesting opinions in the last week or so. First of all, in tomorrow's paper, we have a full page of letters. One of them is what we mentioned earlier about flock safety cameras. Kristen Chilson, I'm hoping I'm saying that correctly, wrote about it basically being mass surveillance and like comparing it to 1984. It's interesting, definitely interesting read and take. Bill Moeller wrote a very interesting piece about the Pledge of Allegiance and how it was written by someone who was a part of the capital S Socialist Party, and that he didn't write it with the under God part, and how that was brought in later and then brought to a court by somebody who didn't want it there, and then that was upheld. It's a really very interesting story, but I have sad news about it.
What?
After this column, Bill Moeller, 95 years old, walked into the Chronicle and said to me, "This is the end."
No, Bill.
He said, "I'm just not going to write columns anymore." And
he said that before.
he has said that before, so it's possible that he doesn't mean it. But I told him, and the Taylors have told him, and Schwartz has told him many times that whenever he wants to stop, that's okay. We'll still love him and
write him a check.
Yeah, he's gonna get those checks.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah. Okay, and then last one, the Chronicle Ed Board had a editorial about the well, the headline sums it up well. It's the Chronicle newsroom, Joe Kent, and the truth.
Go on.
Yeah. So, I'll just read like the first 3 sentences or 4 sentences. A few months ago, the Chronicle's publisher wrote an opinion piece stating Republicans seem to think the Chronicle's newsroom is pro-Democrat, and Democrats think the newsroom is pro-Republican. What's different about the Chronicle news staff from a lot of the media nationally is they aren't on either team. They are not writing stories to help one side or the other. Joe Kent doesn't get this yet. He's used to being warmly received by one portion of the media and attacked by the other. He wants the Chronicle to be on his side. Oh, I'm reading more than just those sentences, but our newsroom staff isn't on his side. Our newspaper isn't Joe Kent's friend or his enemy. We're not here to help him or hurt him. Our journalists are here to report what happens and give all sides of the story. And then it goes on to describe his threat of litigation against the Chronicle and how that came about, and just how, like, if you go back and read that initial story, it is filled with different, like, opinions that Kent expressed during that meeting, including some where he says, no, white nationalists, I don't agree with you. And then in this other exchange where he said, yeah, in response, and that it is our responsibility as journalists to give our readers all of the information, and then they get to make their decisions about the people that they're reading about. And that's it.
Yeah, and I think the people did. That's why Joe Kent is still doing whatever he was doing before the election, which he kind of refuses to discuss.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. He just got married. We know that.
Yeah. Good for him, I guess. All right, Sirens Banger of the Week. I only have one entry I threw on here. At approximately 9 a.m. Thursday, a caller reported a male driving a green Toyota Tundra with a dog in the passenger seat and a baby carrier in the back seat in Chehalis was drinking a beer. An officer responded and observed, quote, no alcohol, no signs of intoxication, and no evidence of drinking. Sounds like he was set up.
Yeah. Oh.
I would be contacting the reporting party and asking them what their deal is.
Yeah.
Guy's just trying to drive his dog and his kid around on a Thursday morning, and harassment. Anyway.
The only other Sirens banger that hasn't been completely announced yet is they have caught the Navavine suspect that they were looking for earlier today. It took multiple hours from between 11 and 12 last night to it was now 3 p.m. when it was announced that he has been arrested.
And the school district went into lockdown during the day, right?
Yes, they went into a modified lockdown during the day and stayed in that throughout the day until the arrest was made.
What was the charge, or what will the charge be?
They alleged that the suspect had been involved in an armed robbery and a carjacking.
Oh my.
So that's why they were looking for them. They had the drones out, they had the dogs out last night, and they were able to apprehend him today. It sounds like in Napvine, possibly near Somerville, because it sounds like that was the next place they were going. And they made that arrest today.
All right. People's Champion of the Week. We have 2 entries on here. First, we have Chehalis kindergarten teacher Shaden Bieber, who was honored as Teacher of the Week at a Seattle Mariners game last week. She teaches at Lintot Elementary in Chehalis.
Love that one. Very
Pretty
sweet.
good. Pretty easy. The other is
Easy
Queer
one.
Prom at the Mineral School, which provided a night of fun for attendees. And I'm sure a night of misery for people who refuse to go.
I just threw this one on at the last second. It's another one that we would have just talked about under the what's in the next edition stuff. But Emily Fitzgerald wrote a feature story about this event that they had, I think, last weekend, maybe. Not like the last one, but the one before. And just the Mineral School is a nonprofit that does like an art program. And it sounds like they had a little time between the next residency program and hosted this event, and there were people of all ages and families, and sounded like an effort to be inclusive in a very remote and very small part of Lewis County.
And
Mineral.
this carried on following some postage papers that
Yeah.
were posted around eastern Lewis County, all the way up to Packwood, I believe, that was saying Child Groomers was running this event, which I don't believe to be true. And
At this point, that is not true. Yeah. But
And-
at this point, we've not confirmed that there were.
No, he resigned from the police department.
Yeah. Anyways, just sounded like a nice thing.
right.
Yeah, sounds great. And again, if you disagree with this, you're free to just not go.
Yeah.
You don't have to. And if you do go and you're straight, it will not turn you anything but that, correct?
I have no evidence to point us one way or the other, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I feel like if you go to queer, if you identify as straight and go to queer prom and leave with a different opinion of that, like, I don't think queer prom did it.
Yeah, well, I don't think that most people who identify as queer would go to straight prom and come out saying, oh, I'm straight now,
That's a
right?
pretty good point. Yeah,
So
interesting.
that's like the only, I don't know, that's the only perspective I can give it.
But where does the library fit into all this? Anyway, on to Facebook comments of the week. On the Joe Clark non-firing, this commenter says, where's the accountability? Where's the higher standard? Where are the adults in the room? Immediate suspension, drug and alcohol evaluation, interviews with his coworkers, and that is just a start. And boy, I did not expect to agree with a Mitchell Townsend comment this week, but here we are.
And to that, they say there's a pending investigation.
Yeah. That's probably all we need to cover for comments.
Yeah.
What else is in the next edition that we should mention?
So we have a write-up and a lot of photos from Owen Sexton about the Mossy Rock Independence Day. This was their second official celebration of that event. They did one last year, but it sounds like this one drew thousands of people, which it looked like a really fun time. The photos are great. And another one from Owen, we have the a mast from a World War II destroyer that was also in Vietnam is now at the Veterans Memorial Museum. Very cool. History. Like I said, there's that story about queer prom. I have a story about an elk with hoof deformities, not hoof rot, but you can read more about that. There's a beak of the week and some other wrap up stuff from the last week or so.
Lots of great sports photos.
Yes, yeah.
And I believe some photos from the Hope Alliance golf tournament. So that should
It
be
was
coming
the
up in the
Economic
next tournament.
Alliance of Lewis County.
Or
Golf
yeah,
Tournament
that's
this
right.
time.
That's right.
Yeah.
Economic Alliance golf tournament.
The DeBolt Open.
So there was a lot of people from various organizations like kidding around, helping out there.
Cool.
Yeah, there was. All right, we're going to wrap it up there. We're sponsored by Summit Funding and the Roof Doctor. Leave a review and rating on Apple Podcast if you feel so inclined.
And
Talk
send
to you-
Bill Moeller an email and tell him you appreciate him.
Or a letter.
Yeah, bake him a pie. Thanks. We'll talk to you next week.